bit about yourself before I get into the questions about why you decided to run for Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. Just reviewing your website, you've done a lot of humanitarian work, not only on the East Coast and out in the Midwest, but also overseas in some third world countries. So talk to me a little bit about how important that humanitarian work has been for you before I ask you a few questions about your decision in running.
So I'm someone who, from a very young age, I decided basically that I wanted to make as much of a difference as I possibly could in this country and in the world. And I embarked on a lot of study and started to take action related to that. And that was when I was about 20 years old. I was inspired by my aunt, who was a civil rights activist. And the first way I activated that was by being involved as a community activist, and I was the director of a homeless shelter. And through all of my study and starting to pay attention to other countries around the world, I started to believe that this was in the late 90s during the Clinton administration, so things were pretty good here in the US at that time. I started to believe that the real severe problems are overseas, and I went overseas to continue that work in charitable organizations. So I worked with, mostly related to human rights and supporting political freedoms, and looking at electoral processes in countries where that had been suppressed. Also worked on human trafficking. Eventually went to work with the UN mission in Liberia right after the Civil War. Went back to Cambodia, eventually got involved with working with USAID, the Agency for International Development, a federal US agency. And later went back to the charitable sector in Cambodia, working on things like education, rural livelihoods. I worked with an international human rights organization in Burma, otherwise known as Myanmar, and then went back to USAID again, Bangladesh, again in Cambodia and Lebanon. And basically this has been an expression of my desire to make as much of a difference as I possibly can with this one lifetime that I have.
That's remarkable, and throughout, you know, your journey, I mean, kind of all over, is there one fight in particular, so to say? I know you've fought several fights alongside a lot of marginalized and disadvantaged communities, but is there one fight in particular that really sticks with you, or that you think kind of transcends or parallels into something that is possibly ongoing today still in our nation that you really believe needs to still be addressed?
So especially in Burma and Cambodia, I worked a long time in Cambodia, and I was deeply involved in efforts to achieve a democratic system in Cambodia through a peaceful transfer of power from the ruling party, which had basically been in power since the Khmer Rouge regime, to a newly elected party, which would have been the opposition. Similarly, in Burma, we had Aung San Suu Kyi and her National League for Democracy. Many of them were in prison for many years. Aung San Suu Kyi was in prison for many years. She was like a Gandhi type or a Martin Luther type figure, Martin Luther King type of figure. And basically they struggled, and with the help of the Obama administration, they achieved power in the teens in like 2012. And I was there during that period, and now they've been toppled by a military coup. And how that relates to our country is that we have always sort of taken for granted that we are a democracy, but yet we still need a lot of democratic reforms in order to make our system more reflective of the genuine will of the voters. And I think in particular, with Trump's denial of his loss in the 2020 election, many people have said we're becoming like a banana republic, where in many countries people deny that they lost the election, and that is sort of unprecedented in American history. But now we've seen with the second Trump administration the real overreach of the executive branch in relationship to the other two branches of government, and there are concerns that our democracy has really been maybe permanently damaged by the actions of this administration. So I think it's extremely important that we take action now in order to restore our democratic system, and then after that proceed forward to reform even further to achieve a more democratic system that reflects the genuine will of the American people.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. And that leads me to my next question. You talk about taking action and restoring democracy and the American dream. When, how, and why did you decide that you were going to put your name into this race for Virginia's 2nd Congressional District, one of the most competitive races, not only in Virginia, but nationwide? It's being monitored and watched by political experts all over the country. So talk to me about how you made that decision.
So my campaign motto is "Together we can restore democracy and the American dream," and that actually reflects the three pillars, which we may come back to. But because I worked so much in democracy, human rights, and governance, and again, a lot of those human rights I was working on were political freedoms, which is also related to the political process. I was involved in observing political processes, involved in observing political parties, fighting for human rights, looking at good governance, how good governance should function, and had many, many years throughout my career to reflect on how you get good results for people. And then I realized, rather than being an outside observer, I want to be in government. So I decided I should run for office, and I looked at doing that in 2024, but it was kind of too late in the cycle because I was just getting out of Lebanon, my position in Lebanon with USAID. So then I looked to 2026 and decided to go for it this time, and I started very early, going back to soon after the Trump administration, the new Trump administration.
All right. Before I get into my next question, I'm just going to move this chair over a little bit, just because I see you talk with your hands, and I just don't want the
Okay.
to bang. So, as you just mentioned, you said that there are three key pillars that you believe really define how your campaign, your platform, and everything that you stand for. Let's talk a little bit about those before I get into some of the specific policy positions or anything, what the future might hold for you.
So together we can restore democracy and the American dream. So the American dream part is about lowering the cost of living or increasing people's income, basically generating wealth for people. There's a sense that the American dream has been lost or is dead in this country. So we need to do what we need to do in order to increase people's income, lower costs, and enable people to achieve wealth. That's the American dream part. Restoring democracy is what I've already mentioned a lot about how we need to improve our democratic system through democratic reform and rolling back some of the negative effects of this administration. And together part relates to reconciliation. So reconciliation means achieving the kind of society that we want to have in terms of our relationship with other people, but especially in the political arena. And that extends to our relationship with our neighbors in terms of whether we can discuss our political differences, but especially more in the media arena and among politicians themselves. So I believe that media has changed a lot in this country. Now social media has become much more prominent, and the algorithms are driving people into their content bubbles, and you see increasing polarization of that country in this country because of that. And it's gotten to the point where we can't even have an intellectual discussion or learn from people that don't agree with us, and people even avoid political topics. So that's kind of my overall comprehensive vision. Together, we can restore democracy and the American dream with those 3 points: reconciliation, lowering costs, increasing people's wealth, and restoring and improving our democracy.
And on to piggyback off of that, many Hampton Roads families are worried about rising costs. I mean, we speak with them all the time, whether that be housing, insurance, groceries. I think about our military families as well, and their financial burden on top of the ongoing war we have overseas. Do you believe that there are any specific federal provisions or policies that are in place right now that you would push to maybe change or amend to actually bring that affordability to our residents here in Hampton Roads?
Yes, there's a number of things specifically by this administration. I think it's important to acknowledge that under the Biden administration, there was a lot of inflation due to the COVID stimulus. It's unfortunate about COVID. But under the Trump administration, one of the first things that he did is sort of unwisely impose tariffs. And we import a lot in this country. We import a lot, so that affected many, many different products that people use. The second thing was starting the war in Iran, which has inflated the price of oil and gasoline. It's not only the price you pay at the pump, it's also all that shipping, all that trucking that ships things to your stores. It's fertilizers and agricultural products. All those things are affected by the cost of oil. So this is going to have a terrible effect on inflation. The other thing was laying off the federal employees. So 300,000 federal employees were laid off, which severely impacts this district and Virginia as a whole. So if you just blindly lay people off under the DOGE cuts, you're going to harm a lot of people. And you would think, oh, we're trying to cut our national debt. Well, no, we found out that's not what it was really about, because in the big ugly bill, which Trump and his Republican colleagues passed last year, they actually ballooned the federal debt, the federal national debt, by another $3.4 trillion. So it shows you clearly that their real intention was not to reduce the national debt if they then increased it by another 10% just in the same year. So that's one thing. But beyond that, I think in a more comprehensive way, I almost believe we need a new agency or maybe even a new department whose sole purpose is to look at all of these different value chains, you know, whether it be utilities, whether it be healthcare, whether it be groceries, transportation, education. This is extremely complex, and it's not something where there's just a simple bill, a single law that can do it. It's going to have to look at many different value chains to figure out how you can actually reduce costs. But I think what we need is an entity which very aggressively and proactively looks at reducing costs that will impact every family in this country.
And speaking directly, to our voters, I'm going to ask you a few different questions as such, but I know a lot of we've been speaking with political experts along this trail about voter frustration and perhaps voter fatigue as we've been talking about early voting ahead of the primaries. So with that being said, I'm wondering how your campaign has been for you along the trail, speaking with different communities. What type of have you been to any listening sessions, and along this time speaking with residents, has there been maybe one or two or three main concerns that you've heard directly from those in this district that you would be so willing to address if you were to be elected into Congress?
I spent a lot of time talking to people in person. I took advantage of the redistricting referendum, which took place earlier this year, and I actually met many early voters at the Virginia Beach Registrar's office. I must have spoken to thousands of people. Since then, I've also spent a lot of time in other public arenas talking to people in person. And I've been to a number of demonstrations or events where I could talk to people in person. And it's actually very interesting that the types of things that people express are actually really across the board, very diverse, and it leads you to realize like how many people are not squarely in the Democrat or Republican camp, and how it's not like there's just 2 or 3 voting blocks in this country, and there's such a diverse point of view. But I think what I heard come up a lot more from the critical side is, like I said, about how the cost of living is killing them, and very deep unease and concern and anxiety about what's going on with the Trump administration.
Mr. Patrick, I really appreciate your time today. Now I kind of want to focus on, for our viewers that are watching, if you are elected, if you are voted for on Tuesday as the Democratic primary nominee, you would be facing against incumbent Jen Kiggans, who is our current Congresswoman in office, Republican. What do you believe sets you apart from your Democratic, of the other Democratic nominees, and what sets you apart from, or what strategies do you have in your hands, without giving a little bit too much insight into your strategy, to potentially have to go against the incumbent Jen Kiggans?
So what sets me apart from the other primary contenders, and also how would I face Jen Kiggans? Yeah. So Elaine Luria has already been in office, and she lost to Jen Kiggans already one time in 2022 in this exact same district. She had 3 times more funding than Jen Kiggans did at that time, and she was also the incumbent, but she still lost to Jen Kiggans by 3 or 4%. And I think that says something about potentially the way that she campaigns or her candidacy. It's possible that she got into this race because she thought that she would win if the redistricting referendum went through. But now that it's back to the same boundaries that she already lost in 2022, I believe we need a new candidate in this district. Another of my candidates has been endorsed by DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. She has a lot less experience than I have. I'm in my 50s now, and I've been doing this humanitarian work that I've been doing for about 30 years. And I've spent my entire life as an activist trying to solve problems for people. Basically, I'm someone who cares about people, and I've shown that through my record throughout my career. And I'm not sure whether she's necessarily reflected on all of her positions that deeply, but is more just leaping to what she thinks will separate her from Elaine Luria. And the other gentleman, he got in the race very late, and I'm just not sure how strong of a candidate he is. For Jen Kiggans, I can tell you that I'm really a go-getter. I'm really a hard hitter. And I think that I'm also a very reasonable and innovative person. So that I think that I can appeal to not only the hardcore Democratic supporters, but also the undecided voters who are really going to decide this election. And basically, I think people are fed up with the Republicans that are just giving a rubber stamp to whatever Donald Trump wants. Like I said, there's a deep unease in this country about what Donald Trump is doing, and Congress is just rubber stamping everything for him. So we need Democrats to at least act as a check and a balance so that at least one House of Congress can say, if that's a crazy idea that our 80-year-old president is doing, we need to put a stop to it. So I believe that we are not going to have another Republican in this district this term.
A few more questions I have for you. And speaking about your humanitarian work and your activism, let's see, how can I say this? I believe that when people hear about activism and humanitarian work, they might not understand how that intersects with the political sphere, with the political realm. And how would you balance your humanitarian and activism and go-getterness if elected into Congress to be more of a bipartisanship approach to work potentially along both sides of the aisle based on the work that you've done so far?
There was a survey question, I think it was from the Virginia Mercury. It asked you, when have you demonstrated your ability to negotiate like this? And as I was essentially a diplomat, I had to actually negotiate with foreign governments. So, for example, I had to have the National Election Committee in Cambodia or the Ministry of Social Affairs in Cambodia as my counterpart. These are people who speak a foreign language, come from a different culture, have extremely different interests than USAID did, for example. I also worked with the Supreme Court and the Attorney General's office in Burma as a counterpart. Again, that was a reform period in Burma. So I'm used to negotiating with other entities that have a completely different interest than what I have or than what my party has. And again, I'm a very flexible and innovative thinker, and I can think about things from other people's perspective. And I think that multicultural experience also relates to that. So if, for example, I'm talking to a Republican colleague, I can listen to them and understand their belief system and where their positions are coming from, and try to find some kind of common ground where we can actually move forward together and actually achieve something together through bipartisanship.
I see you have a piece of paper on your desk. I just want to make sure we don't miss anything throughout your notes. So my next question would be, are there any top three policy or any top three solutions, or I know we went through the three pillars based on your kind of campaign motto, but anything that you believe our viewers should know about the legislative work that you're hoping to do, or if there's a particular area that you feel as if you would really show strength in, or a committee that you believe you would really have a good seat at the table on if elected into Congress that you would like to touch upon right now?
So this is basically, I'm talking about the crises that I feel the United States is facing. So I've already talked about affordability and how it's also affecting the younger generation. I talk about the climate crisis and affects the threat to biodiversity. National debt, I consider the national debt to be a crisis. Social Security is running out of money and Medicaid has been cut. We have all the wars going on in other countries that we're involved in. And also we have the new issue of AI coming in and potentially affecting employment, or even having a deeper impact on our society, as well as new technologies which can be used to surveil people. And because of Trump, we have a democratic crisis, we have a crisis of governance, and we have a crisis in our relations with the rest of the world. And we're falling behind in research and development. So my overseas experience touches on our relations with China and how the US is going to be able to withstand the threat from China in, say, the coming century. But many of these other things that I've mentioned would be on my agenda. Healthcare is obviously extremely important. Again, as a former development worker or international aid professional working in different countries. I have experience kind of looking at problems from the outside and assessing them and understanding them. And I've been spending a lot of time researching about our healthcare system and trying to understand what is the best solution that would bring universal healthcare so that everyone in this country has access to healthcare. But again, national debt, I think that's a serious issue that needs to be tackled. I'm also an environmentalist. I'm really concerned and care about other life forms in the planet, and the climate crisis, I think, is serious. And AI is something new on the horizon that I never would have expected to be as serious as it is now. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I would not have foreseen this issue coming up. But we have to tackle these things head on.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. One of my last questions for you before I offer the floor for anything else that you feel as if we should have touched upon today is your message to voters, for our voters that might not have participated in early voting yet and will probably be heading to the polls on Tuesday, for our voters that are concerned whether or not their vote counts or not in light of the referendum being overturned, to our voters that are looking for a change, but maybe it's their first time voting, or maybe they're not as involved or intertwined in politics. What would your message be to them about why Patrick Mosolf should be the next Democratic primary candidate for Virginia's 2nd Congressional District?
So again, I'm the only candidate in this race who basically, since a very young age, decided that I want to address all these different challenges, and I've been spending, many, many years looking at this. I've basically studied probably almost every single policy area. I'm also very fluent in global affairs as well, foreign policy issues. No other candidate has the depth of experience that I have, and like I said, I'm an innovative thinker. I'm able to understand other people's perspectives, which will enable me to work in a bipartisan way and negotiate with the other side as well, while at the same time sticking to the real interests of our voters. And I also want to emphasize that someone that goes and works in extremely impoverished countries or was the director of a homeless shelter, through that action, I was demonstrating my caring for people in general. And I can say that that's something that I've come back to throughout my career, is concern for other people and wanting to be of service and to help other people. And I think that distinguishes me from the other candidates.
And you mentioned the importance in your depth in global affairs. For those that might not understand how that type of expertise is really important specifically to Hampton Roads, given that we operate some of the strongest, largest naval bases and shipbuilding and submarine building right here in our region. If you could speak to how you believe your expertise really ties into the involvement that we see really on a daily basis here in our region, sir.
So I'm a pro-democracy activist, basically. I'm someone who's fighting for democracy, and I've done that in other countries. And that's also the same reason that sometimes is given for why the military should be deployed overseas. We were told that we were fighting for democracy in Iraq, for example. So a lot of times when I look at the global arena, I'm thinking about how can we bring democracy to other people in the world? And that also leads to my concern about the People's Republic of China. And through my in-depth study of China and its relationship to the United States and how the U.S. is going to withstand the threat from China or the challenge from China in the next 100 years, that's something that I bring to the table. And that's something that's going to affect our military as well. We need extremely strategic and smart leadership to navigate this. And it also goes to economics. It's also an economic struggle. But you see, with this war in Iran, if the leadership is not wise and makes foolish decisions, unplanned decisions without a clear strategy, the real human impact that they can have on members of the military. I was reading yesterday an article about someone who was deployed on a naval ship for 11 months and didn't see their family for 11 months. And that's related to the deployments to Venezuela and to Iran. So there's a very human impact that comes when a person who really is sort of beyond the term limit in terms of his age being in office and has such total control over the Republican Party is making sort of autocratic decisions about deploying people to Iran, how that has a real human impact on people right here in Hampton Roads. So that's why we need the best leadership in Congress, as well as the executive branch, to protect them and make sure that they are not unwisely deployed when it's not actually necessary.
You know, throughout this entire conversation, we've discussed a plethora of things and a plethora of issues that you would believe that you can address based on the depth of your international experience and humanitarian efforts and passion for that. Given that there are numerous issues and challenges right now in Washington, what would you like our viewers to know about how you feel you can tackle an array of challenges that are thrown not only in Hampton Roads, but if you were to be the next congressman addressing those in our nation capital?
So I meet a lot of voters, and they often ask me, like, what's your issue? And that's a very tough one for me, because when I look at what's going on and I follow closely what's going on, there's actually so many different issues that a member of Congress will need to address. I like to use the number 30 or 40 different issues. So I've mentioned those three pillars, but generally speaking, there are so many different issues that our country is facing. And I touched on the different crises that I thought that our country is facing. But I think what I would emphasize is that because of my strong academic background and because of all the years of studying that I've done, because of my motivation as an activist and my humanitarian desire to improve things for people in this country and the world, that I feel prepared to address basically almost any crisis or any issue that might be thrown at me as a member of Congress. So you really need to be sort of a generalist. You need to be a polymath. You need to be someone that's able to tackle any problem that might come up during your tenure. And because of my long career in this work, I feel ready to do that, and that's one of the best reasons why voters should vote for me this year.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mosolf. Are there any other things that you feel as if we should touch upon today? Otherwise, those are all the questions that I had for you. I greatly appreciate learning more about you, and I wish you the best of luck along this campaign, and regardless of what happens Tuesday, hopefully we can stay in touch.
I'm also a father of two children, 2 and 5 years old, and I'm the husband to a naturalized immigrant, so I'm familiar with the immigration process, and I also understand the challenges that families are facing in terms of childcare and schools and affordability directly through my life as well, because I have 2 small children, and so that also I can really understand the struggles that families are going through now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick.
All right, thank you.
All right, yeah.